Call of Duty just announced a brand new Warzone map called Haven's Hollow. Today I'm going to give you my thoughts and insights about what I think the brand new integration of Black Ops 7 is going to do to Warzone. We're going to take a look at some of the new equipment, talk about the perks, what I think of the map, and overall some of the gameplay that we saw today at COD Next. I'm also going to address something that I think is going to be highly controversial with the player base, so stick around because I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. They've introduced a ton of new changes coming to perks and equipment, and some unique ways to counter some of the plays that players use all the time. First and foremost, I think the visibility is definitely the pinnacle of what makes this map so exciting. And if you look at some of the maps in their comparisons in previous years, Rebirth has reigned supreme due to the brighter lighting and the high-paced action. I personally think that Fortune's Keep also had that going for it, and on the opposite side of that, we've had some Resurgence maps that definitely had visibility problems. Vondel had the fog, Ashika was generally very dark and muddy, and I believe the sole reason that Area 99 tanked was the brown color palette. So to see that they've taken the contrast and the visibility of players throughout the course of the map seriously changes everything. Now, I'm not going to get too excited because I think that how it actually plays when we get to try it will ultimately dictate whether or not it's fun. But from a viewing perspective, there seems to be way more emphasis on lighting, and interior lighting is just as good as the outdoor contrast. Players are sticking out on all surfaces. There doesn't appear to be as many dark corners for players to hide in. Lines of sight seem very intentional throughout the course of a lot of these POIs. I'm very excited to see that there's cover being integrated into some more of these open areas, but not so much that you can't have points of attack. In fact, one of the things that I think players loved about Vondel was the choke points between buildings, and I think they did a wonderful job integrating that into this map while still minimizing the verticality. There are definitely some large POIs that have quite a bit of activity and some more verticality than normal, but for the most part, there are not huge vantage points that can control whole sectors of the map. Which the lighting, it's almost like they turned up the contrast and the brightness. And I really appreciate that they finally dropped the brown color palette. I think that it will play much better, and they seriously have finally started taking the criticism about actual gunplay. Interior lighting is something that Call of Duty has struggled with quite a bit, especially since the inclusion of Warzone. The large-scale maps is a lot for the developers to maintain, and anytime they introduce new weather elements, things have always gotten more complicated. So I'm so excited to see throughout the course of some of the live gameplay from COD Next, as well as the flyover, that there are consistent spots of lighting in just about every single room, POI, closet, bathroom that we encounter. There appears to be great diversity in the way of rotations. In other words, there's not as many generic routes that players will have to go now that they're doubling down on their Omni movement and introducing a few more mechanics. But I want to talk about something that I think is going to divide the community quite a bit, and that is throughout the course of this entire Warzone gameplay, I did not see one wall jump, which if I missed it somewhere that they announced it, the wall jump is a new Black Ops 7 mechanic, which we saw in the multiplayer live play, and it seems very erratic and makes for very fast gameplay. But what I've said for many weeks since they introduced this feature is that it may not play well the concept of Warzone. Now, of course, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below, but most importantly, this may very well change, and in the future, they may integrate this in as a perk, they may bring it in as a field upgrade, and I really think that it gives the community the potential to grow with the new map without introducing too much new movement. I think that's another thing that Area 99 had going against it, is they introduced a completely new map with a completely new movement system, and there was a lot to learn in a short amount of time. Speaking of Area 99 for comparison, the engagement problem was the second largest complaint, is that Area 99 was a third-party city. The increase in cover and natural landscape, I believe, will help keep that in a proper balance. We will have buy stations, which is something that the creators early on had given input to increase the count, which will help with the stability of the game. The overall size of that map plays very much a part of that. Haven's Hollow is roughly the size of Ashika Island, a little larger than Rebirth, but smaller than Fortune's Keep. This will play extremely well with the 45 players that they have allotted currently. I think if you put all of the puzzle pieces together with a fun, bright, contrasting environment and a controlled movement system, that this could be a lot of fun. Now, I do have my concerns. Of course, performance is always on the heels of any of my optimism is, can the game and the servers deliver this? And we absolutely need to see that throughout the course of the integration. Now, this will start with the engine of Black Ops 7 and how well the movement system is when we get our hands on it. But then where I think a lot of players are going to get caught off guard is they will spend several weeks leveling up their weapons, and they will not be able to take some of the mechanics like wall jumping back into Warzone. So there's going to be some imbalance there, and I'm curious to see how they handle that. Speaking of the weapons, there were several creators that mentioned that the attachments had very different descriptions in Warzone from when they had earned them over in multiplayer. And I think that this is fantastic. This will give them the ability to edit those attachments specifically for Battle Royale and then maintain the integrity of the original attachments in multiplayer. They did announce that there was only a 5 attachment system, which I think is phenomenal. They are eliminating wildcards completely from the Warzone side, at least. You will not need a wild card or a perk to have both of your primary weapons. Overkill will be burned into the core, everyone's setup. And one of the bigger things that they definitely changed was the elimination of tac sprint, at least on the base mode. They have increased the base movement speed, and then they have offered tac sprint back into the game via the sprinter perk, which I hope will make for a more fluid game for a variety of skill levels. And we will have to see what that looks like after it gets out of the hands of professionals into everyday gamers like you and me. Some of the other perks that they talk about for Warzone are incredibly powerful. I was extremely intrigued by the adaptive perk, which combines the effects of resolute and reflexes, would increase your movement speed when you're fired upon and your overall awareness. There's some interesting sounding lethals and tacticals that I think will lead to better counterplay, such as the smoke grenades now can extinguish a Molotov fire, and the stim shot will now reduce or eliminate the effects of stun grenades. These types of mechanics will help balance players' reactions, and they won't feel stuck in a specific scenario. I do really like this needle drone, I believe is what they called it, and it was a spearing explosive drone that you could then throw into the room. They said that this would replace the impact grenade. I think it's a phenomenal alternative to something like thermite and use to counter enemies. There was another mention of a jamming style or a snapshot style grenade that would then tag multiple players. I think this would be great to use in conjunction with that drone to mark players, forcing them out of their area in order to destroy it, and then being able to hurl explosives into a room. So I think if you look at the big picture of higher contrast maps with better coverage in between POIs and increasing the outplayability with some of these tacticals will greatly improve the playability of Warzone in this map. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out, there are some other things that I think may become controversial. And for instance, Ghost was mentioned, and it was quickly said to reduce some movement speed, also being in the same perk spot as Sprinter. But what they gave back to it is you are now hidden from an advanced UAV with Ghost. And I know they've done a lot to Ghost over the years because it has brought imbalance to the pacing of the game. And I'm curious to see what your guys' thoughts are on that and how it actually plays out when they release the game. They promise an increase in actual diversity with these attachments. And every year they claim this to be true, but I'm smelling that they might actually have a grasp on this right now when they're reducing that 8 attachment system and then increasing the ability to share these loadouts with the weapon build codes that we will be able to share with you guys as creators, as well as you can share amongst your squad mates. I think that will create a lot more ease of use, and players will be going out of their comfort zone, maybe with different weapons and trying new things, because the overall communication of spreading these metas will be even more efficient. They've promised more rapid meta changes, and I think that that leads to the overall diversity of the game, and it definitely helps them on the bundle side as well as helping us on the playability side, so that we always have something for all of our play styles, but they're still effective. I think this will replace the concept that they used to have of weapon tuning a little bit by looking back at their ability to adjust those barrels and those grips to have different effects for Warzone versus multiplayer. So looking at the whole thing, they seem to either have really thought this out or maybe felt the pressure of, say, the looming competition from Battlefield 6, but I'm actually kind of excited about some of the changes. Now, I'm optimistic. I'm not overly supportive in any way. I am just like you guys. I play the game after work and I make content to help you guys improve. And I've always tried to keep that as a very simple outlook. I'm not a pro player, but I do try to help people get better with the time that they have from a limited outlook. And I really think that they're starting to expand some of those categories. One of the other pieces of equipment that was really cool that they showed was the decoy. And instead of being the inflatable one, it's way more realistic, but it's based off a hologram. Lots of people were showing gameplay where they were getting tripped up by this thing. I think once again, it's pretty cool that it would introduce a new mechanic that if, say, you're fighting outnumbered and you could throw this down and absolutely turn the tables on somebody who's chasing you. I'm really excited to use that in the escape artist guides that we'll be having coming out, because I will be using this mechanic quite a bit. That's really all I have for you guys today. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the map, see if you guys are excited for Black Ops 7. I know I'm going to be trying the beta. If you guys are interested, I'll post some settings guides and my general outlook for drills. I'm always going to be a diehard Warzone channel. I'm not going to main multiplayer, but I also realize that Call of Duty is going to do their thing, which just force us to play multiplayer for a couple weeks. So I may sprinkle in some Warzone content in between if you guys are still interested in that. You guys know that I always love to hear from you, and you guys tell me what you want to see. I can't wait to drop some dubs on this map for you guys, and we will definitely be doing our first situational report on Haven's Hollow on Season 1. Thanks for watching, you guys. Keep building. Keep adapting. Sit rep out.